Welcome to the top of the morning show. It's your girl TT from the D, and I want to thank you for stopping by on this thankful Thursday morning. I think it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood, and I know everybody can't be each other's neighbors, but this is a day that I wish I could sit out on the front porch if I had a porch swing with a nice tall glass of freshly squeezed lemonade. But the property that I would sit on would be facing an ocean, and I could listen to the sounds of the ocean crashing against one another. That's peaceful. And in life, I think we all want peace. You see it all over social media. People are taking the more peaceful journey, if you would say, and trying things differently. We're looking for the positive intent in people's actions. And I know I'm not the only one that's been told or you've heard, assume positive intent. Yeah, that's a good mindfulness to carry, right? It's the mindset, it's in the way which we choose to think. And this morning I want to just share 5 reasons to always assume positive intent. And I know it can be difficult, especially when you're dealing with a certain type of person or people, and or you've dealt with these people in the past and present, and you're like, no, I know where they're going. I know how this goes. There's many reasons why you could say, I don't want to. But then there's also a lot of reasons why you should always assume positive intent. Okay? Number 1, it goes for that one thing we want, and that's peace. So it promotes peace. And I know we get upset from time to time, and we get angry, and we get beside ourselves sometimes because we're human. And I also know that sometimes we just don't want to have to address situations and circumstances. Like, we don't want to talk about a hard topic, a hard subject, whether it's in your family. You know how that goes. You and your family, you know you got to talk about a situation, but it ain't going to be peaceful, right? Because you can assume positive intent, but the person or the people you got to talk to, they're not about that. It can happen in the schooling system, right? It could be between peers, teachers among teachers, or peers amongst peers, or peers amongst teachers, or teachers amongst peers. You get it, right? And we want to promote healthy, peaceful relationships. And definitely it can happen in the workplace, right? Because that's where I've learned the slogan, assume positive intent. And I have to play the angel's advocate because I ain't gonna play the other one. But I've had some times when I'm like, I assumed the negative intent, and it was what I assumed. And then some people might say, oh, you didn't give it a chance. Then I've had some times when I've assumed the positive intent, and it was totally negative. So for every situation, know that there are differences, right? And we don't want to dive right into a hot pool. We don't want to get in it at all. We'd rather it be a nice temperature. We don't want to dive into a freezing pool. We want it to be at the right temperature, right? So we have to choose wisely. Check the temperature before you decide to dive in. Number 2, it doesn't do any harm. When we assume the best for our family members, our friends, our classmates, our coworkers, our partners, our children, we want the best for them. So being judgmental and assuming negative intent, it's not going to help. But if we assume positive, it can really help. Negativity, but positivity, yeah. It can actually bring and birth stronger relationships, whether that's platonic or not. Family, friends, classmates, co-workers, neighbors, strangers. Number 3, it provides clarity. And what do we want? Imagine going out and jumping in your car on a winter day. You're not going to just pull off with snow on your windshield. You're going to have to scrape it off, You need to turn on that defroster. Some of y'all do, though, be out there in them streets driving. And I'm like, you can't see a certain man. But on a serious note, you want to let it defrost. You want to be able to have a clear view. Don't you want that in your relationships? Because assuming positive intent reminds us to ask for clarity. And then let me be clear on this. So what I hear you saying is, we want to revisit that 2 or 3 times. And there's nothing wrong with that. And some might say, oh my God, you sound redundant. Do I? Or do I just sound like I want to be sure? And I'd rather be sure and sound redundant than not be sure and sound ignorant. If that makes a difference. Number 4, it builds bridges. By assuming positive intent, it allows us to build a positive bridge, a strong bridge. Who wants to walk on one of those rinky-dink bridges? Rinky-dink relationships, untrustworthy relationships. I need people to be who they're going to be. And some people can handle it 100% and some cannot. Now, sometimes we're a little paprika type of spice, and sometimes we're a little caliente type of spice. And sometimes we're just salt and pepper. You get the point. Number 5, yes, it seeks to understand. Embodying the thought and the process of assuming positive intent kind of allows us to table misunderstandings or the likelihood that we'll create misunderstanding. Because if we go negative first, we don't really give the opportunity that we could be incorrect. And we have to open and be honest that box. We're not going to always be right. We're not always going to be correct. And we got to own that. If you're not, you're not. If you are, you are. That's okay. Because ain't nobody perfect. And even when you assume positive intent, it could go a whole lot of different ways. But one thing is for sure, if you try the positive first and it don't work out, it's like, I tried. But if you go negative first and then it's like, oh, it's the other way, and then you find yourself, now I gotta apologize, I gotta go and I gotta do this, I gotta do that. And it's like, we don't want to go that route. So assume positive intent first if you can. It's not hard. Much easier than assuming negative intent. In fact, always assuming positive intent goes against the human nature side of us. When someone is rude or disrespectful, we feel some kind of way and we want to respond with the same temperature. Because the feelings become mutual, right? But remember, you never know what kind of day a person is having or had, or what kind of week they had, or what kind of night they had, or what they're getting ready to encounter that they already they're thinking about. They're projecting like, oh my God, what this is going to turn out to be. So we got to do better. You know that saying, when you know better, you do better. Let's try to do better. Well, that's all I have for you on this Thankful Thursday. I'm thankful. I'm thankful for a breath of life that God was so gracious to deposit in the household in which I slept. Not only for me, but for my spouse and my children, and for all the households that contain people like you. Until next time, it's your girl TT from the D, and I'll see you soon.